vampire. That's a lot, you know?
I remember the day where like Twitter was going wild and they were like, skinny jeans are out and you shouldn't side part your hair. And I was like, like, oh no. Like it was
like
like,
that
I think
one.
yeah, like
my identity.
I know that's what I have. Yeah, I've learned, and now I'm going to be uncool if I do that. Like I feel like I'd immediately, like after 50 years, just be the most uncool vampire in the world. I feel like there should be a vampire who's like born from the 20s, who's like had like super high pants, suspended. You know, that would be great. Yeah. Here, let's. Yeah. So how do you cope with that? How do we cope? I mean, there is the other example that some people are saying is that it is a deal with the devil, and that you do have to kill people. That's the other thing forever is that you do have to kill people to sustain yourself. So how do we cope?
I guess that's a downside.
I think I would go the like Dexter Morgan route. I'd try to only kill bad people. I think if I was, that's how I would cope. I'd have to just like make some. Rich knows that I like D&D because I like rules, and so I would just establish my own code and rules and
just
systems.
Lawful good vampire.
Yeah,
Grace could make a good lawful neutral vampire, you know? I mean, that's a good one. I know a lot of people get conflicted with, like, Louis' choice to, like, I'm only going to feed on animals, right? There's this idea, especially around vampires, like, oh, no, if you turned me tomorrow, I would embrace myself and throw myself into it. But, like, you know, the long-term economics of that, Tuesday, like, you know, you have to feed on people forever, indefinitely. Like, it ties back to the money thing to me of, like, that's a long plan you have to set up for yourself. If you can burn a few centuries eating like rats and bats, that I would go that route, I think, for sure.
Dennis, sir, thanks for the hearts. We very much appreciate it. Sending some hearts. Very much.
Thank you.
Supporting the stream. That's awesome. How are you guys going to cope? How are you going to cope with being a vampire forever, living forever?
Well, like, aren't there people like? Surely you could turn up like at a hospital and be like, "Hey, do they still do that like leech thing?"
Isn't that removing the blood from you? That feels like it would make you sicker. Oh, you're going to borrow the leech blood. Is that the idea? Like you.
No, it's kind of like I've like look like you've heard of leeches. Let me pitch you something that's even more effective than leeches. You're gonna get a job. We can get that bad blood out in no time.
Tuesday, are you opening like?
You gotta come to my van.
You're opening like blood donation, and you just take a cut off the top.
Yeah, it's like blood donation, but reverse. Like
that's how you fix the money issue.
Yeah, exactly. I think there's the beginnings of a business plan here. I think that we could,
which really also helps your financial situation.
Yeah, exactly. We set up an Instagram account. We get, you know, I'll take care of all those vapors. You know, you got some bad vapors in your blood. Yeah, you're not making enough money at your job. Come see me. I'm gonna suck out that bad blood.
I love it. It's like the equivalent of like a vampiric going off the grid, you know, like cord cutting, getting like self-sufficient, a whole little like system perpetuating itself. I love it. Yeah.
Ooh, I could be a social media manager for too. Like, you know, we could team together since I already don't know social cues as a vampire. We're like, hey, I'll weed out some people.
If we were all vampires, I think we'd make a good team. We'd have our social media manager.
Well,
we have the wisecracking guy in the lumberjack shirt.
I was going to say the best way to cope is with a found community. So that's this is what we're doing. We're finding our community. I feel like starting a TikTok vampire and like finding your fellow commune, I think would be great.
Yeah,
I guess a commune is more your coven. Yeah.
Yep, we got it covered.
Somebody Dennis thinks that there's a lot of company executives among the vampire race.
Probably.
I think that's a fair take.
That's why they work nights.
They work late out. Yeah, that's true. Yeah. Well, that's hilarious. Well, okay. So there are some downsides we've learned. Yeah. Okay. Who are you telling first? You've become a vampire, either by choice or not. Someone has turned you. Who are you telling first?
Can I pick an option that's not on the list?
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah, no one?
I've thought about it. This is what I would do. I would immediately go live on Instagram. I would tell everyone. The whole world would have to know straight away. I couldn't keep a secret anyway. But look, I'd have some sort of proof. I'd be like out there proving it to people. And like, here's the game. Here's the game plan, right? really can the evil vampire monarchy really come kick your ass, and can the government really come drag you away when you have sick corporate sponsorships for your new vampire brand? The public's on your side. Twitter will be up in arms if you go missing. You gotta get ahead of the wave. You gotta get the public on your side straight away, and then turn that into cash.
This is a good story. Yeah, well, we've booked many good stories, I think, because this idea of just going live when you're a vampire is very fun. It's very good. I think that'd be great. Yeah,
I think it'd be hilarious. Be like, join me for what's that thing they do? Where it's you watch somebody eat, and it's kind of like an ASMR thing.
Mukbang.
Oh yeah,
yeah, I do that, but vampire. Watching
there's no way that
I'll start a Twitch account.
There's no way that if Rich and I become vampires, we're not immediately starting a pod that's about living as a vampire. You know,
podcast by night. You know,
that's
absolutely.
Right. Podcast by night.
Yeah, we get those sweet podcasting sponsor. Stamps.com and all of the what else? All the ones you hear on every podcast.
We'll be able to advertise.
You gotta have your pick.
Yeah, we can advertise the reverse blood donations happening at the hospital. The whole thing. It's all very, yeah.
We gotta all say, I love how seamless this is.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, it's almost as if it's meant to be. Wait till they find out we're really vampires. I'll keep it on the down low.
That's risky. It's not like a partner. It's like crush. Dennis here would like to do crush because if it's not going to work out, you can treat yourself to a blood bank of an unsuccessful relationship.
Oh, wow.
Whoa.
Oh, I picked the wrong one.
Oh, you're not into me? Okay. Thanks. Immediately. Mm-hmm.
I picked the wrong one. Okay, I picked that one. Because I wouldn't tell my family member.
Yeah. No?
Yeah, I wouldn't tell my family member. I'd probably just tell my best friend, because if my family member knew I could live forever, they'd never stop asking me to do stuff. You got plenty of time. Go ahead and do this thing. And it's like,
oh my God.
Okay, no. So
it does ruin. Yeah. Do you know what? Yeah, because I've always said that the reason I would want to live forever is I said earlier I watch a lot of TV, and so when we were talking about, there's a show called The Sandman that came out this summer as well, and there's someone who lives forever in Sandman, and so we were talking about it, and I said I would absolutely want to live forever so I could watch every piece of media ever made. I would never have the decision of I don't rewatch a lot of things because I have this thing of I haven't seen this thing, so I want to watch that thing rather than rewatching this thing. But you've found a hole in this, which is when I'm no, I'm staying home Saturday to watch 7 movies. But you could do that whenever. You live forever. So please, could you come help me move?
Yeah.
And I'm going to be stuck
here.
You
to babysit your nephew, Grace. Yeah.
Yeah.
It's
no.
You
have plenty of time. Yeah.
To be fair, I did learn from Interview with a Vampire, do not let them near baby. I know that Louis didn't eat the baby, but it was very close. Animal was very worried about him eating the baby. So maybe babysitting is on the docket, but I think anything else. Yeah. Mm-hmm. You're not telling your family. Rich, are you telling your family?
Oh, no chance. No, I'm going the Louis DuPont-Dulac route. There's a 0.0% chance I tell my family. I would definitely tell my crush. Amidst the many role-playing games that I've spent thousands of hours delving into, one of the more popular ones outside of Dungeons & Dragons is Vampire the Masquerade. And as much as we're joking about all of this stuff, there are rules, which Grace loves, inside this game for everything that we already talked about, in terms of developing a group of people who are very comfortable letting you feed on them as a vampire, building a social media presence. So when vampire hunters come to kick your door down during the daylight, your adoring fans show up to push them off and prevent government probes, into your eye, or have long-term finance management. It's all there. So I've thought about this a lot.
That's excellent.
And no chance am I telling my family. I think I probably have to fake my own murder and fall off the grid to alleviate them of the pressure of the slow reveal of my immortality over years,
Mm-hmm.
That might be true, but yeah.
Okay. Let's vote. It sounds like nobody's doing family members. So if you want to substitute family member with all of our fans, we could say that. Or family. What is family member could be our chosen family as well. Sounds like nobody wants to actually tell their family. So if we want to tell our fans, that could be our chosen family, I think. So
I'm going live on Instagram, and like my family's definitely knowing about it, but that's probably
true.
how they're finding out.
So I'm gonna start the vote timer.
Building a brand.
That's right. That's right. Yeah. So let's see. Okay. Most people are telling their best friend. I think 2 people. I think somebody else picked family with you there, Tuesday.
There we go.
All right. What's the first activity you would do, and who would you want to do it with if you're living forever?
I'd want to get like a really sweet makeover, like get my hair done, like get like buy a new outfit, like when you're like you have a major change in your life, like a breakup or something, you go cut off all your hair, or something like that. Like you do something like that, be like, I'm a vampire now, so I should really have like a sweet bowl cut, or like or get a mullet.
I think I'm going for something that has a chance of death attached to it, like something very like these like what's the thing, like hang gliding off a mountain or something like that, where like who cares if I break my leg? I'm just gonna I'll immediately my leg will be fixed. Like I've never been skydiving. I'm not really afraid of heights, but I feel like if there's any time to do it, it's when you know you can't die from it. I guess unless you land on a spike, like a stake right to the heart.
Don't skydive over a forest.
Now, like thinking about what's the premium rate for nighttime skydiving is. I'm sure.
I forgot that I can't.
Yeah, probably. It feels like nocturnal skydiving feels much more expensive. I would want to go. I think like deep sea diving without a mask. I'm a real fan of the Caribbean. Give me like a snorkel and a pair of fins. I'm underwater all day, right? And so let's really go full James Cameron way of water. Let us delve the secret unexplored depths of the earth. I think that would be pretty cool. Yeah.
Dennis, you're saying buy lots of sunscreen, and Ayana's saying shopping is first coming to mind. Yeah. I like that. I did kind of forget that obviously every time I'm like, I forgot that it comes with a bargain. You have to kill people. You can't go out during the day. It's just I was like a no strings attached living forever situation. Yeah.
Well, surely 500 years from now they'll have sweet cat suits with goggles or something that vampires can wear and be fully light proof.
Armand at the end of the series is actually the sun doesn't bother me anymore. So it does take a long time, but I think you can eventually go out the day. Yeah.
Just build up your resistance, get a little sunburn here and there.
That's right. Yeah. It's true. We have to think of nighttime activities. That's so true. I did actually. Maybe the first thing I would do would be try to fix my sleep schedule, because I very much am never up late. Yeah, there was
I guess they do, don't they?
There was a movie that was playing. It started at midnight, and I was like, I can't go see it because it will end at 2:30, and 100% of the time I'm not up at 2:30. So, all right, okay, if you could, this is interesting. You get to pick when you are turned as a vampire. When would you begin living forever? We were talking earlier, but you were joking too that you were having trouble with the technology. Is there a good age to not be constantly confused by the technology? I recently threw out my back carrying my niece, and I was like, I think I'm 30 because my back hurts in the morning.
It sneaks up on you. Well, I think it depends. If we're talking about the kind of vampire that when you become a vampire, you kind of get that vampire strength, right? So it's kind of
that's true.
You get kind of bolstered. If we're talking that kind of vampire, I would absolutely choose 95 years old.
Right.
I would want snow white hair. I want
yeah,
exactly. You're streetwise. You're at that time in your life where you're I don't give a shit. That's just your life ethos. You just totally feeling that. And I think that I could really pull off being a hot grandma. I think I could really, really embody that spirit. And I think I could do that as a vampire. I think that'd be sweet.
That's hilarious. Anybody else? When are you being turned into a vampire?
I'd pick my age now, 34, because it's I don't know. I'm vibing with the 30s because it's it's mid range. I'm not exactly 40 yet, but I'm not 20. So it's just it's a perfect chaotic age, and it's like I can just vibe here.
It's
And
the
like
age where you can like still do stuff on TikTok and people don't think you're lame.
they don't know because they can't tell because
Exactly. You're not too old.
So it's like a chameleon. So yeah, I choose my 30s. I'd stay at that age.
They were just saying nobody would suspect grandma vampire, which I do think is true. And I also do think it helps with this. There is this issue of living forever where when you get stuck at the age you are, and I think I know a lot of people didn't like this movie, but Eternals was a movie where they did this great thing where Kumail Nanjiani's character just continually pretends to be his own son. And he's an actor, and so it's just like, oh, now this is like Kumail Nanjiani Jr. And he replaces himself and so there is a thing you have to do that. But I do feel like you could like extend you would just look old for a very long time. I think I think you'd have to like you wouldn't have to like replace your identity as often. I think if you're already pretty old.
Somebody would just be like, oh, geez, Tuesday's been around a while, and then you fake your death, so you died in a nursing home. Nobody questions that, whatever. Off you go.
And
you're just another old person in another town.
I think you sold me on old.
Oh,
vampire.
I'm this person.
I think I'm like totally warmed up to old vampire. I very much with this idea that Bear Witch is putting. I think you'd be totally overlooked. You've got you can get like respect from the people that are going to respect their elders, but then a lot of people are going to like inherently treat you poorly because of ageism, and this gives you an immediate feeding pass, right? Now we can fall back to Grace's system. We can Dexter them. Like, you do not have kindness or compassion for my wizened years and stooped posture. So now I'm going to jump on you like a preternatural immortal being and drain your blood. I think that all of this works. Like, 10 years ago, I would have said, like, I passed my prime to become a vampire because I have all this gray in my beard now. But I think give me another 30 years, it'll be full gray, and I'm locked and loaded. I'm ready to go. Yeah.
And also, I think that if you're like, oh, I'm Rich Filiberto, like, no, you're not. You died 50 years ago.
Yeah, like,
well, what an old man. What an old man. He's lost his mind. He's so old, Dennis was asking about newborn baby vampires. Are you familiar? Apparently there's one in the Witcher. We talked last week about Claudia a fair bit, and Claudia is actually in the book. So in the movie is aged down and then is even younger in the book. I believe she's like 8 in the book, and then like 10 or 12 in the movie, and now is like 14, 16 in the show. And I was saying last week, I do really, I mean, the terrifyingness of like an 8-year-old vampire is truly horrific. But I mean, I guess you do learn. It's just like you're stuck as that. So definitely not newborn baby vampires, or even just any. I feel like I need to be the age of majority to be a vampire.
Yeah, definitely. You want to be able to walk into a bar and at least pretend to order a glass of wine.
That's right. Yeah. Under saying 25, you can go to the clubs and then murder guys who harass girls. That's also a good code. Yeah, that's good. All right. Okay, what personal goals would you want to achieve if you lived forever?
I want to draw like a bunch of manga and Otomo games. Just keep putting out stories and just be like in my hole, just drawing and making comics forever. That's perfect. That's all that's like my main goal now, and that's what I would like do if I was like able to live forever. I would never have to stop. I wouldn't need rest, and I could just
like imagine how good you would get at it too. You'd just be like,
that's
you'd
true.
Be amazing with all this practice.
Mm-hmm. I think I'd become like a little bit to where like I wouldn't even be concerned about being good or not, because I'm just drawing like for me, because I'm like, everybody's taste is always changing each century. I can't keep up with this, so if
you're living forever, somebody will like your art. Somebody. The probability that somebody will like your art increases dramatically if you live forever.
Yeah. Right. So it's just like I just focus on like just creating whatever like I'm currently obsessed with for that century, whatever trope I'm currently obsessed with, want to see like drawn back in. So that's what I would do.
Mm-hmm.
That's awesome.
I mean, I'm
like
yeah. Go ahead.
Yeah, you go, Grace. Rock,
I was going to say. Okay. you win. You go.
Coward.
Yes, that's right. I am a coward. Yeah.
No. Oh no, I was just gonna say like I I feel like anything that you decide to do, like, you know, because like you kind of have to think of like, oh, what's a noble pursuit, right? Like you're gonna live forever, and you know, let's pretend you are like a cool social media vampire. You've got this like celebrity, like, you know, you head down to your local office, you get involved in politics, right? You start getting out there, you start advocating for the causes you care about. The only problem with that is that, like, guaranteed in like 100 to 200 years, that just becomes, I must overthrow the government and seed anarchy. Like, surely, like, there's no way that
Yours is
doesn't
way
happen,
better
right?
than mine. Mine is a very
Oh, it's
selfish
just
pursuit. You're all like cool and
You can do that at the
ridiculous.
same time.
Yeah, I
Oh
think that
man.
you're
you can do
creating.
both. You can do it all.
I think you're creating a bunch of art for people, which is good, and this is like a positive outcome and clearly going to inspire people. And I think there is some truth to like the inevitability of this like forward thinking, like let's fix society path. I think it leads to Emperor Palpatine at the end. All roads like bring you to like absolute power, right? I mean, like at some stage you're going to recognize that these mortals keep resisting your like much higher consciousness. You've seen centuries play out. They keep perpetuating these same failing cycles, right? Yeah,
Yeah,
I'm
these
much.
tiny little bugs just can't see it, so let's just
And
squish
I
them,
got
and
the
you'll do it
proof
for
because I
us.
drew the
Like,
books. I got all the proof.
Right.
yeah, exactly.
See, I was going to say, because I do think you do have to figure out, like, you do have probably climate change is going to be real bad if you live forever. Right?
Oh yeah,
You know,
Forgot about
like
that
if
too.
if
more
society
tangible
does
issue.
fail,
Yep.
if society does fail, that's gonna it's it might be tough to feed. So you kind of have to ensure the future of society. My other answer was going to be to just keep watching movies and TV because I like to do a lot of like. I just like to complete. I'm a completionist, so I would like the idea of being able to feel really good about just being able to watch like every movie ever. So that feels good. But I guess also we could
team
say
together with like Tuesday. If like one of your series got like ended, you could like team together with like Tuesday to like petition for it to continue like the next century. Like you guys, this is a really good TV show idea. You guys should finish.
I'll be ruling the world, and we can create as much content as you need.
Yes.
That's right. Primarily, ruling the world is mostly about being able to renew our own TV shows. It sounds like.
At a certain point, right?
I really love it.
Yeah, which will feed into the revolution.
Let's
People are watching the shows.
Firefly back on the air.
That's right. That's right.
I love it.
I am so proud of us. We're awesome.
We're fixing everything. We really should.
Exactly.
Let's definitely take over the world.
Yeah, Julia's saying if our views are so outdated, can we learn fast enough? But yeah. And Bearwood is saying that we would get canceled based on something we said last century. That's true. They pull up our old tweets on TikTok.
Yeah.
Yeah. Well, let us know what your personal goals are for living forever. What are the benefits and challenges of creating content based in the afterlife? So Judah, you're a writer. Have you written anything that is based in like immortality?
Yeah, absolutely. I published a book that has vampires in it. One of the main characters is a vampire, and I've got a couple stories on Dorian that are vampire based. And this is probably the only serious answer I have for this whole thing. But the benefits and challenges, the benefits and challenges of like immortality and like vampire content they're kind of one and the same. Like when you say, like, if I were to say to somebody like, oh, I'm writing about a nib nub, you'd be like, what? What did you say? Did you have a stroke? But if I tell you, oh, it's a story about vampires, you immediately have pretty much everybody is going to have an idea of what a vampire is in their mind. So you you have this benefit of this huge and vast pre-existing lore. That everybody, you can spend less time onboarding people. People know what you mean when you're talking about vampire. The challenge exists in the same realm where it's like everybody has a pre-existing idea of what they think a vampire is. So, so people who like, Anne Rice vampires don't like Twilight vampires because it doesn't meet their expectation. So if you want to introduce something new, you better be prepared to kind of come up against people who are like, nope, that's not what a vampire is, So you got to got to make it really good. You got to sell people on your idea if you want to try anything different.
Yeah, it's a good point. Rich, what about you? You run a lot of D&D. You write a lot of D&D sessions and games and worlds and things like that. What do you think is the benefits and challenges of this? Yeah.
I think that there's a lot to what Tuesday is saying with like the onboarding, right? There's a shared language there that like just immediately connects people. And I think that even to make it like a little broader, just talking about the afterlife, this is a commonality that we can't dispute amongst each other as humans, all like trapped on this rock hurtling through space, right? No matter how many differences we can find and how hung up we can get on those differences between us across the world, across political divides, across generations, right? There is a commonality here that we're all going to have to face death, our own and those of the people that we love and are invested in around us. And so there's power to that. There's like an incredible amount of strength to look to that as a font of inspiration and just an emotional outpouring, right? There's instant connectivity to everyone's human experience, no matter how specifically like divergent they are from one another as individuals, right? And I think the challenge therein comes with like similarly to what Tuesday's talking about. Everybody has like preconceptions about what death means to them, and you start getting into like religious philosophies and like doctrine and strong spiritual beliefs, and you run the risk of challenging people's ideas and getting a lot of like pushback and attacks against that, right? Part of like His Dark Materials just returned to HBO. It's a great fantasy series from the 90s written by Philip Pullman, and it's really like attacking philosophy and theology in very interesting ways. I don't mean attacking like aggressively. I just mean approaching them with a very pointed and specific point of view. And this idea of what happens in a world where we can erase death becomes relevant at a certain point in the story. And that's immediately like deeply fascinating, right? And you're going to get really charged and powerful reactions out of people. And I think that that's the strength and the challenge in one, right? Is being able to like dig into all that stuff. Yeah.
Yeah. I think what's interesting for me about like immortality content, whether that be vampires or if that's D&D plays with like elves have these long lives in Lord of the Rings, they essentially live forever. And I feel like the thing that I really it's almost I think the one thing about the characters who end up in that situation or opt into that situation, it's what are you willing to give up, and what do you not realize you're missing from life being finite, to me is like the really compelling piece. And then also like this thing that the very first question we asked, and Rich, you said you gave sort of the easy answer of when you live forever, the tough part is that everybody around you is still mortal, doesn't live forever. And I feel like in these medias, what I think these shows do really well, like in Interview with the Vampire, I think Louis' family in terms of his brother and his sister, what they value in their life because they don't live forever, I think is the really interesting. It asks these big questions. If you, what does death look like? All of this stuff. So, I think that and I love what you said, Tuesday, about it. Like, it does create sort of this shared language of something like talking about vampires or witches, as May for Witches is gonna come out. People have a notion. You can play with that as well, but that also presents its own challenges. Yeah.
Could I add one thing? Because you
Yes.
guys, I love how you guys had like explained that aspect. Because I was totally thinking of something different with what the question was.
Yeah.
Well, I was thinking one of the benefits of like creating content on like vampires and whatnot is being able to explore the different folklores within different cultures and their vampires. Like in Ghana, there's a specific vampire that it turns into a firefly, and when captured, it can possess it can have powers to possess humans. So like I think that's the benefit of just like the whole like creating vampire based stories, as you can see the other formations and folklore that other cultures have that is completely opposite or just totally different from what the Eurocentric vampires are. So that's what one of the benefits that I really like when it comes to vampire folklore. So
Well, I think
Yeah, it's
some of
really
these people,
interesting, isn't it?
some of the answers earlier were about. Also, thanks Julie and thanks Liz for sending in these hearts. Very much appreciated. A lot of the things that people wanted to do when they lived forever earlier was like study other cultures, like travel the world, learn new languages. And so people, thanks Diana, thanks for the hearts. That was the thing that people were looking for. I think one thing, I don't think we've talked about this either week, but one of the things when you're talking about like more European centric vampires, if you actually look, it's actually Bram Stoker's Dracula that the probably the most common versions of vampire are based on. And I'm going to say something. This was a bit hard for me to hear at the beginning, but if you actually look, a lot of the vampire tropes are actually based on like anti-Semitic tropes at the time. And so when you do some reading into that they hoard money. Their facial features are often like associated with, and so Bram Stoker wrote Dracula that way. And so when you look at the biases that are there, I don't think that means we need to like condemn all vampire media, but just I think it's interesting that you're saying like there's not anti-Romanian people and anti-Balkan people, as Andrew's saying, that we can explore these different cultures, and there's different versions of vampires and folklore, and in different parts of the world, how people made their kids be afraid not to go run out in the middle of the night. What were their boogeymen out to make sure that their kids actually didn't run off into the forest at night? I think it's just very interesting and worth like looking where sort of our media comes from to make sure we're not like playing into those tropes. So
yeah, just to piggyback on like what you and Sharean are both saying, like it really is like compelling in terms of an ability to open up. I talked about this last week of like the types of characters we have as main characters and having people of color and like women and putting diversity on the screen in the stories that we're telling. It's important not just to like represent the people that are being represented more often, but to give a viewpoint, a window, a like empathy touchstone to people that are different, right? Like so much of my experience growing up is like a cis, like suburban white guy was connecting with other types of people through storytelling, right? And the way that I've been able to explore the different mythology around vampires internationally. This game, Vampire the Masquerade, draws a lot of international sources. And in the 90s, it was done in a really inelegant way. It's a lot of like cultural appropriation that is inadvertently being handled. But now we get to look at this stuff 30 years later with more thoughtful approaches to the folks that are trying to adapt it. And it creates such a powerful inlet for people that are trapped in their little corner of the world, whatever it is, where all of us can fire up this phone and like reach into a tunnel that's going to transport us elsewhere. And that's such a huge strength of storytelling, right? And on a much more like superficial level, there's like power in fiction with like creating this immortal character that you can follow across centuries to look at social commentary in a really pointed way. Like we're joking about how hard it would be to like live across the ages, but this is a really great viewpoint to take when you want to explore the failings and the systemic issues that we're talking about every day that need to be changed, right? While we're going to take over the government as vampires.
That's when we need to take over the government.
So we can keep our TV series going.
Yeah. It's so funny because I think it's very, Rich and I like when we were asked to do these two, we did that topic last week, and then we're like, and Live Forever will be the fun one. It would just be fun, and of course we're like, so systemic racism built into immortality.
Yeah, for my vampire, what I was trying to like point out was more so seeing vampires in like with Ghana. There's a firefly vampire, so that's what I was more so talking about. I want to see non-human vampires with firefly vampires.
Well, Andrew was talking about, there's a lot of stuff, the Anglo, there's this idea that like he's buying foreign land in England. That's how that's how Dracula is set up. He buys this castle and he's unwanted. But as Julia points out, there's so much like other types of fantasy around the world. The Witcher, Julia points out, is like a really good example of using like different fantasy folklore embedded into their stuff. So there's just so much, I think, when you're like, to bring this back to what Dorian is to create content. Like when you're looking for inspiration on your thing, like, there are a lot of these like very basic, these like tropes that have worked they work because they work. That's, that's why they're tropes. That's why they get used a lot. But there's so many other places you could go for inspiration in terms of types of beings that live forever. So, like you could be a butterfly. that sounds so cool. Yeah.
That would be awesome.
Cool. We'll do a time check. We probably have time for a few more if there's some other questions in here. Is everyone's good?
I'm good.
Yeah, no problem.
Oh yeah.
Yeah.
I've got forever apparently.
Here, people can. That's right.
Yeah, really.
Here, well,
Plenty of time.
I forgot that there's a poll, so we can actually vote. And if people don't have time,
Okay.
we can scoot.
Watch somebody. Oh,
Perfect.
no one picked it. I would have thought that someone would have been like, "Ha, time to wrap it up." Like, oh.
Okay, so what we'll do now, we'll open it up to audience questions. If folks have questions you want to ask us about immortality, creating content, anything you want, really. Yeah. Or if any of you folks have other questions you want to ask, you can as well.
If you could pick any celebrity or any person to be a vampire, who would you point your finger at and be like, "I'm gonna make you a vampire"?
Could it be an animal?
Sure.
Yeah.
Okay. No, because I can't do people. I'm not connected with people. I need animals. So my rabbit, Wilbert. He's a very good
Wilbert.
And to be clear, in this scenario, you are not a vampire. You're just picking somebody to be a vampire. So you might start looking real tasty to dear old Wilbert.
No, Wilbur can't do it. No, I thought I was a vampire. He'd eat me.
I think I need to pick like the most wholesome celebrity. So I feel like I might go with Tom Hanks, who I feel like would have a lawful good, at least a lawful neutral, a disposition on being a vampire, and he's the greatest actor of our generation.
Like in 1,000 years.
So he can keep acting in movies. Yeah.
For 1,000 years.
That's right.
I was, to that point, Grace, I was going to say Paul Rudd, but I think they got him already.
Oh,
right?
he might be a vampire already.
Yeah, I think that's perpetual. And I love the Rabbit Vampire. Bunnicula was like a delightful series that I grew up with. I used to get him at the Scholastic Reading Fair every year. He drains the juice out of the carrots.
The carrots.
Yeah,
I remember that story. I'm trying to figure out which celebrity, because I don't know a lot of people.
That's okay. It doesn't have to.
Who's somebody that we don't like? Because you could also target somebody and be like, Donald Trump, he's now a vampire. Now we've got a reason to get rid of him.
That's a long list. Yeah,
that's true.
We could use this.
Oh, you guys are thinking... I'm all thinking about someone in my life I don't like. You guys are thinking of the greater good again. I'm like, oh, hold on. I'm a very selfish vampire, apparently. Okay, let me see.
I think vampires are inherently selfish, right?
Yeah, but whoever made the candies,
so you're on the right track.
The good and plenties, they get to be turned into a vampire. I don't like the good and plenties, so I want them to see everyone of every century hating on their candy. The good and plenty creators, I hate them.
The ultimate punishment.
Yes, suffer. You see how all centuries hate this candy.
I'm Canadian. I don't know what good and plenties are.
It's like a black licorice and like a white mint, and you eat them together, and it's just like.
Okay,
it tastes like
no thanks. Yeah.
Yes,
sorry, I was doing so well with the app today, and then I accidentally press forward. But Bearwitch would like to make Jared Leto, just make him actually be Morbius. That's very good.
Hey, to be Morbid time forever. Yeah.
That's right.
I like Vampire Oprah. Yeah. She would give out a lot of stuff if she were allowed to hang out.
That's true.
She'd be our donor for our company.
You will get some
absolutely
blood. You will get some
take
blood.
Over the government before we did.
Oh, for sure. Yeah, she's got that clout.
She's got a bigger following.
Andre's asking, is there one vampire trope that you're bored of and you feel is overused? Talking about the Eurocentric thing, or maybe something other than that. Sexy vampires?
Yeah. Vampires having sex. Vampires don't want to have sex. They just want to do their thing. Or maybe they do.
Yeah, they could be asexual vampires. Yeah.
Yes, let's see some asexual vampires. I'd love to see that. Just good old Joe. Joe with his book, knitting a sweater, living his life.
You know what? I don't want to spoil season 2. I don't know if they're going to do it, but one thing that's not in the movie that I just finished reading the book, Interview with the Vampire, and in the book, when they first go to Europe, they uncover these like deeply grotesque vampires. Rich, do you remember this? They're like basically like zombies. Yeah, they're Nosferatu. They're like total zombies. just like going out to be in these small European cities who are like villages that are like tormented by these like horrific these like I think that could be fun to see. Yeah, we don't need them all to be like super sexy, like yeah.
I mean, sometimes is okay, but doesn't have to be all the time.
I'm over,
That's right.
if we're talking about like vampire tropes specifically, the ancient vampire dude falls in love with high school girl. Like, can we move
Yes. Cut that out.
Can we
Yeah,
have we covered that ground enough? Like, I'm ready to move that past that one, you know?
Do you know what I'd like to see is like a character study of like, okay, so you're a vampire that's repeated high school 100 times.
Yeah.
And you want to get with this chick who's in high school for the first time. She's 16. Let's sit down with a psychiatrist and talk about why you would do that.
Talk about that. Like,
it's nefarious, isn't it?
I also do want all the stuff you were saying at the beginning, Tuesday. That's true. I do want the 80-year-old who has not figured it out. He's under financial burden. I want that. I want that story of like, the sort of like sad sack middle-aged person who's like, this sucks actually. It's very expensive. I have to kill people. You know, it's very stressful.
It's not the vibe.
On disability. And
this is not the vibe.
That's right. I want that. I could see that in What We Do in the Shadows. I could see them introducing a character like that.
What We Do in the Shadows is amazing. They are amazing.
Well, there's a line in What We Do in the Shadows where this guy had been turned into a vampire, and he works the night shift at like a convenience store. I'm like, why are you doing this? You're a vampire. And he's like, I have to make money. I have to pay rent. And he's like, why don't you just steal the money of the people you kill? And he's like, wow, that's a great idea.
Leaving the money there.
Yeah. He'd just been leaving all the valuables and goods at the house. Yeah,
it's a real revelation. Yeah.
Do you know what? It actually might be tougher as the more we go. I don't have any cash in my house. Like I don't have everything. I just use my debit card everywhere. You know, all my cash is
really
digital.
Good at identity theft. Like, you just spend your time like memorizing people's social security numbers. Yeah.
Yeah.
Oh my God.
That's amazing.
If you had enough time, you hide the bodies. It's going to take a while for people to figure out that they're gone. You could absolutely get into the bank account and empty that pretty quick.
Gen Z ruins the vampire
now
industry.
That we're down this whole like line of thought, can I ask a question? If you were a penniless vampire who had to like hole up somewhere, where would you stay? Do you have a particular default of where you want to go?
My mom's house for sure.
Oh yeah,
the basement.
My mom's got a good basement.
Do you know what? How many people who are like, you know, they're like, oh gosh, he's 25, but he still lives in his mother's basement. Like, how many of them are vampires? You know,
so many.
Yeah, maybe most.
So many.
Oh,
maybe most.
25. Yeah.
Yeah.
That makes sense.
Definitely.
We don't get a free castle, Rich, when you become a vampire.
No free castles. No, I just was thinking about it and like what Sharean was saying. Like, I think I would want to go maybe live at the zoo. I used to work as a volunteer at the Bronx Zoo in high school, and I think that'd be like a really great place to live if you were like a homeless, impoverished vampire. I would be very down with that. Yeah,
I want to live in a library.
That's a great idea, and just snacking on tigers at midnight.
I had this dream. I had this dream as a kid of, I don't know if other people had this, of like, imagine you got like stuck in the mall and like the mall closes and then you're inside the mall after midnight, and then you get to like somehow all the stores are also open and you get to just like eat all the candy and play with all the toys. So maybe the mall would be a good place.
Imagine like a 6-year-old playing in the mall during the day and opens up like one of those like bedfoot like ottoman storage things, and you're in there like
a little bit.
Just close that door.
That's hilarious. All right, I think we'll wrap up. This was so fun. Rich and I will maybe plug our stuff, but Tuesday, do you have anything you want to like promote or shout out, or where people can find you, follow you?
Yeah, sure. I'm on Instagram at Tuesday.Cross. I'm on Twitter at Tuesday Writes. I'm here on Dorian, Tuesday Cross. And you can check out Rich and I's new D&D podcast.
That's right.
To be determined. I've announced it now, so now you have to do a D&D podcast.
Okay, but to be fair, Rich does run Twitch D&D, so like this is actually not out of the realm, but that you come play D&D with us. So just saying, yeah.
Okay, cool. Well, I'd love to gently invite myself to your to your group. Thank you.
Noted.
Okay, what about you? Yeah, you want to put anything other than the Dorian social media?
Yeah, I'll just do Dorian social media. I'm an introvert, so I want to stay in the shadows. So if you got a game or a story you want to create, or if you got an OC idea that you want to do, go ahead and use Dorian. You can create your game code free, make monies, have fun connecting with the community. Try them out.
Cool. Julia, thanks for the hearts. All right, Rich, what do you got going on? Thanks,
So much stuff. So I am at DM Philly on Twitter. You can hit me up there. My DMs are open. Streaming Dungeons and Dragons with you, Grace, often in space over at twitch.tv/DM Philly. And I'm podcasting about a bunch of TV. We just finished talking about 1899. We're getting ready to do a big dark rewatch project over the next 6 months. That's going to be very fun. I'm talking about Historic Materials and Willow and all kinds of other nonsense television. And soon I'm going to be podcasting about Dungeons and Dragons with Tuesday consistently. So, to be announced.
Weekly podcast coming your way.
Rich, you should, lest we forget, if you watched Interview with the Vampire, the TV show, Rich and I covered every podcast. You can go check it out. I believe postshowrecaps.com/vampire, I believe, is the feed to get all the episodes we did there. And I'm doing the same movies, lots of TV coming up. Rich and I'll be covering Mayfair Witches as well from AMC, and I'm on Twitter at Hi from Grace. This was so fun. Rich, I certainly appreciate being invited to come and do this, and appreciate everybody who came and joined us, and everybody who gave us some heart. So I think that's it. Yeah, try your hand at Vampire Paranormal Stories, and that's a wrap on our Discussion Club series. So thanks for joining us.
Thank you.
Thank you all.
Thanks, Grace.
Oh, check out Tuesday's story. Sorry, I didn't know there was more.
Oops.
There we go.
Hey, there
All
we
right.
go.
Awesome. Cool.
All right.
That was fun.
Thank you so much. Yeah, it was so nice to meet you, folks. This was great.
Yeah, nice to meet you
that
guys
was super
too.
fun. Yeah, it was very nice meeting you guys. And legit, if you ever do want to play some D&D on a Twitch stream, hit me up.
Yeah.
Oh, I would love that. Is Twitter the best spot to get a hold of you if I send you a message
Probably,
there?
Or Discord. I'm on Discord a lot too. Yeah.
Okay, cool. I'm on Discord as well. I'll just find you.
Okay. We might be on the same email chain as well. But yeah. Anyway.
We are. I'll hit you up and send you my Discord stuff. But yeah, let's get in touch. Let's play some D&D. That'd be cool.
Awesome. Cool. All right. Thank you, guys.
All right. Bye,
cool.
folks.
Really nice meeting you guys. I'll talk to you later, Grace.